One weekend afternoon, Kyle Williams and his daughter Sarah went to see a villa in a high-end residential area. As a successful businessman, Kyle had worked tirelessly to get to where he was, and this villa was the reward he wanted for his family after many years of hard work. When they arrived, he quietly told his daughter that this house could become their new home, a place where Sarah could freely have fun and experience the wonderful things in life. As soon as he arrived, Kyle received an urgent phone call from work. Not wanting to interrupt his plans, he asked his daughter to go inside first to look around the house and get a feel for the new space. Sarah, filled with joy and excitement, rushed through the gate, imagining herself entering a fairy tale castle. However, her excitement was quickly extinguished when she stepped through the gate and came face to face with the real estate agent, Mr. Philip Brown. Philip was a middle-aged man, well-dressed, but his eyes showed caution and contempt when he saw Sarah enter. He coldly asked, "Little girl, what are you doing here? This is a private area. Strangers are not allowed." Sarah was surprised, but still politely replied, "I came here with my father. We have an appointment to see the house with him." However, instead of accepting the explanation, Philip became even more stern, looking Sarah up and down with an unfriendly expression. He raised his voice, "There is no appointment for your father here, and if you don't leave immediately, I will be forced to call the police." Sarah felt confused and a little scared by Philip's threat. She looked around for her father, silently hoping he would end the call so he could explain himself to this difficult man. Just then, Kyle walked in with a calm demeanor. He said politely but firmly, "Hello, I'm Kyle Williams, and I have an appointment at 2:30 to see this house." Philip, hearing Kyle's name, narrowed his eyes in disbelief, then sneered, "You have an appointment? No, I'm expecting a guest named David Gold. Stop joking around and leave before I really call the police." Feeling surprised by this reaction, Kyle repeated his name and appointment time, but Philip still didn't believe him, continuing to think that Kyle and his daughter were intruders. Kyle realized that further explanation was probably useless. To prove that he was indeed a potential buyer, he slowly opened the suitcase he had brought with him. Inside was a sum of up to $500,000 in cash, ready for him to put down a deposit if the house really appealed to him. "I brought this money to show you that I can afford it," he explained gently, "and I am here to see the house by appointment." The appearance of such a large sum of money made Philip momentarily stunned, but his attitude did not change much. He let out a sarcastic smile and said in an arrogant tone, "Who would bring cash to buy a house? This is not a black market transaction. Your method is really strange and somewhat suspicious. Do you think you can buy this villa just by bringing a suitcase of cash here?" Philip's sarcastic words and attitude made Sarah feel extremely uncomfortable. She turned to her father and whispered that maybe they should leave and find another place to buy, because she did not want to face this insult anymore. But Kyle just smiled, gently placing his hand on his daughter's shoulder, signaling that she should trust him. He said calmly, "Sarah, there are times when we need to be patient and calm. Let him do his job, and you'll understand why I want to stay here." Even though she didn't fully understand her father's reasons, Sarah decided to listen and continued to follow him. That brief conversation helped Sarah calm down a bit, but she still felt uncomfortable with the way the broker treated them. She wondered, how could an adult and a service worker be so rude and disrespectful? Philip, seeing that Kyle still refused to leave, reluctantly led him and his daughter into the house, although his face still showed his displeasure. As they entered each room, Philip kept making sarcastic comments, emphasizing the expensive details of the house, as if to imply that Kyle did not have the financial means to own it. His words were not only unprofessional, but also showed clear discrimination and hostility. However, Kyle remained calm, patiently watching Philip's every move and word. He thought to himself, this was a good opportunity for him to teach his daughter a lesson about how to deal with prejudiced and biased people. He wanted Sarah to understand that sometimes we will encounter unfair situations in life, but how we deal with those situations is what matters. As Philip reluctantly showed Kyle and his daughter around the house, his attitude became increasingly sarcastic and provocative. Each room appeared magnificent and luxurious, but instead of describing the amenities and beauty of the house in detail, Philip deliberately used suggestive words, as if targeting Kyle to put him down. As he walked through the living room, he glanced at Kyle and smiled. "This house is very valuable. Not everyone can easily own it. But if you bring enough suitcases of money, you might consider handing it over." Sarah, who was already displeased from the start, became even more upset upon hearing those sarcastic words. She gently tugged on her father's shirt and whispered, "Dad, I don't think we should stay here any longer. This guy really doesn't deserve us to buy a house from him." Kyle remained calm and nodded to reassure his daughter, but he also knew that Philip's behavior had crossed the line of disrespect. He decided to continue watching to see how far this broker would go. They moved to the kitchen, which was equipped with modern appliances and cutting-edge design. Philip waved his hand at the high-end appliances and shook his head, saying in a disdainful tone, "You're probably not used to using these types of appliances, are you? The appliances here are all exclusive products. Only customers with high-end knowledge and experience can truly understand and use them properly." Sarah glanced at Philip in annoyance, wondering if anyone really needed a manual just to open the refrigerator or microwave. Kyle looked into his daughter's eyes, noticing her frustration, and that made him even more determined to see this lesson through. He smiled and said to Philip gently, "Thank you for showing us these high-end amenities. It seems like you know the house very well and are dedicated to your job." Kyle's compliment made Philip pause for a moment, but he quickly regained his arrogant attitude, continuing to make sarcastic remarks as he led them to tour the other rooms. Finally, they arrived at the guest house behind the villa, a small space that still exuded luxury and sophistication. Kyle, with a mysterious smile, asked Philip to let him and his daughter in for a closer look. Philip, seemingly feeling uncomfortable, reluctantly led them in, and as soon as he entered the room, he smirked and said, "I'm sure you'll be surprised to find that this guest house is no less luxurious than the main villa. However, only those with high knowledge and taste can fully appreciate its beauty." At that moment, Kyle slowly took out a business card from his pocket and handed it to Philip. Philip glanced at it and was a little surprised, but still didn't fully understand the meaning of Kyle giving him a business card. Kyle calmly said, "I think you should read this business card carefully. There's some important information that you might not know." Philip took the business card and read the words on it carefully. When he reached the line, "Kyle Williams, President and CEO," his expression began to change. The disdain and smugness on his face gradually disappeared, replaced by a look of shock and concern. He hesitantly asked, You are the president of our company?" Kyle smiled, not too surprised by Philip's surprise. He said in a calm but somewhat serious tone, "That's right. I bought this brokerage a few weeks ago. I didn't announce it publicly, because I wanted to have a chance to see for myself how our staff treats their clients." Kyle's smile remained gentle, but his eyes became sharp, as if to convey a profound message. Philip was confused, his arrogance and complacency completely gone. He bowed his head, his voice trembling. "Mr. Williams, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I really didn't know. Please give me a chance to make things right." He continued to apologize, expressing that he had acted wrongly and pledging to change his attitude if he was able to keep his job. But Kyle, with a calm expression, replied, "I don't think a simple apology can erase your attitude today. Our company values professionalism and respect, and I can't risk dealing with people who lack respect and have such strong prejudices." Kyle's words were like a final verdict, leaving no room for Philip. He didn't accept the apology and asked Philip to prepare to pack up as soon as they returned to the office. Philip tried to plead, promising that he would change and never do it again. But Kyle just watched silently, unmoved by his belated remorse. He understood that Philip's attitude was not a coincidence, but the result of a deep-rooted habit and mindset that could hardly be changed overnight. After letting Philip ponder in silence, Kyle turned to his daughter and said, "You see, Sarah, in life, respect and fairness are core values that we cannot compromise on. No matter how rich or how high a person's status is, everyone deserves to be treated fairly and with respect." Sarah looked at her father, her eyes filled with admiration and empathy, realizing that her father was not only a successful businessman, but also someone who deeply understood humanity and human values. At the end of the tour, Kyle gently said goodbye to Philip, leaving him standing alone with a feeling of regret and shame. At this time, Philip truly realized that his actions and thoughts had cost him a good job, as well as a great opportunity to change himself. After leaving the mansion, Kyle and his daughter Sarah walked slowly towards their car. On the way, Sarah could not hide her admiration for her father. She looked at Kyle and realized that the calmness, wisdom, and tolerance that her father had shown was not just a reaction to an event, but also the way he lived and conducted his life. This was not just a house tour, but a valuable lesson in character and morality that Kyle had passed on to his daughter. Kyle showed Sarah that wealth doesn't always come from material things, but also from the values inside each person. Money or status, but without respect and kindness, all is just superficial and unsustainable. He reminded his daughter that judging a person by appearance or prejudice is not only wrong, but also leads to unfortunate consequences, just like how Philip lost his job because of arrogance and discrimination. Through this story, Kyle hopes that his daughter will learn the value of fairness and tolerance. He wants her to remember that everyone around her deserves to be treated fairly, regardless of their background or circumstances. Kyle's lesson is a reminder that humility, respect, and kindness are what make a person truly human. In life, we cannot change all the prejudices of others, but we can choose to respond with moderation, fairness, and compassion. And above all, this story also conveys a strong message to all of us. Success lies not only in achieving material goals, but also in the ability to create positive influences for others. True wealth is the values we leave behind, and the lessons of respect, fairness, and compassion will always be eternal values. Subscribe to the Inspiring Hearts YouTube channel so you don't miss meaningful stories that inspire you and give you valuable life lessons.